The broken table, the Ramirez family had once been the envy of their neighborhood. With 5 children, lively dinners, and a home always filled with laughter, they seemed like the perfect family. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. And over time, those cracks grew into chasms that no one knew how to bridge. It all started with the death of their patriarch, Miguel Ramirez. A strong, loving father, Miguel had been the glue that held the family together. When he passed away unexpectedly, the family was left adrift. His wife, Elena, tried to keep things together, but the weight of grief and responsibility was too much for her to bear alone. The eldest son, Carlos, took on the role of the man of the house, but his siblings resented his authoritarian approach. Maria, the second oldest, felt overlooked and unappreciated, while the twins, Sofia and Diego, grew distant, retreating into their own worlds. The youngest, Lucas, just a teenager, acted out, seeking attention in all the wrong ways. Arguments became a daily occurrence. Carlos insisted on making all the decisions, which led to clashes with Maria, who felt her opinions were dismissed. Sofia and Diego, once inseparable, stopped speaking to each other after a bitter fight over money left from their father's will. Lucas, feeling ignored, started skipping school and hanging out with a rough crowd. Elena, overwhelmed and heartbroken, tried to mediate, but her efforts only seemed to make things worse. The family dinners that once brought them together became silent, tense affairs, until one day, the unthinkable happened. During a particularly heated argument about selling the family home, Carlos slammed his fist on the dining table, a beautiful, handcrafted piece that Miguel had built himself years ago. The table, a symbol of their unity, split down the middle, collapsing under the weight of their anger and resentment. The room fell silent as the family stared at the broken table. For a moment, it felt as if the last remaining thread holding them together had snapped. Elena burst into tears, and one by one, the siblings left the room, each retreating to their own corners of the house. Months passed, and the family grew even more distant. Carlos moved out, unable to handle the constant tension. Maria threw herself into her work, avoiding family gatherings altogether. Sofia and Diego barely acknowledged each other, and Lucas's behavior spiraled out of control. Elena, feeling helpless, began to wonder if her family would ever heal. But one day, as Elena was cleaning out the attic, she found an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, she came across a picture of the family gathered around the dining table, laughing and smiling. Tears filled her eyes as she remembered the love they once shared. That night, she called a family meeting. Reluctantly, everyone showed up. Elena placed the photo album in the center of the room and spoke from her heart. She reminded them of the love their father had for each of them and how he had always wanted them to stay united. She admitted her own mistakes and begged them to try to rebuild what they had lost. At first, no one spoke, but then Lucas, the youngest, broke the silence. "I miss us," he said quietly. One by one, the siblings began to open up, sharing their pain and regrets. It wasn't easy, and the wounds were deep, but for the first time in years, they listened to each other. The road to healing was long, and there were still moments of tension, but the Ramirez family began to rebuild. They repaired the broken table, a symbol of their commitment to mend what had been shattered. And though they knew they would never be the same, they learned that even a fractured family could find a way to come together again. By Michael Obayelu.